Welcome, kids. This is a story called Echoes of the Lost Cove, a magical beach adventure where a young boy discovers a mysterious cassette tape and uncovers secrets of a lost treasure hidden in a mystical cove. Before we jump into our story, let's ask ourselves a question to think about while listening. Have you ever lost something that was special to you? What made the search challenging for you? How did you feel when you finally found it? And what did you learn along the way? Feel free to pause here if you would like time to discuss these questions. To take this story a step further, please find a free lesson plan on the video's description below. Now, get comfortable, find a quiet place, and enjoy the story. Tommy squinted at the golden morning sun as he combed the beach, his toes wiggling into the cool, wet sand. It was a perfect day for finding hidden things, Tommy thought. But this time, it wasn't a seashell or a shiny pebble that caught his eye. Half buried in the sand, gleaming in the sunlight, was an old cassette tape. It looked strange and clunky, like something from long ago. Tommy picked it up and stared at the small windows filled with black tape. His dad had told him about these. Cassettes, he'd called them. People used them to record voices and music back in the day. But this one wasn't labeled with a song or a name. Instead, scrawled in faded letters were the words, "Echoes of the Starling." What could that mean? Tommy wondered, turning the tape over. Suddenly, he heard a soft crackling sound like whispers in the wind. Tommy's heart skipped. He rushed home, where his dad kept an old cassette player in the garage. After some digging and dusting, he popped in the tape. As it started playing, soft waves and distant voices echoed from the speakers. It sounded like people calling out, but their words were fuzzy, like they were speaking through time. Could this be a message? Tommy murmured, leaning in close. From the Starling? The legend of the Starling, a ghost ship that vanished near Lost Cove, sent chills down his spine. The next day, Tommy hurried back to the beach. As he combed the shore, he spotted something flapping in the breeze, a tattered flag half buried in the sand. It was faded but had a strange symbol, a bird with stars around it. "This must be from the Starling," Tommy whispered, wide-eyed. Just then he heard something, a whisper. It seemed to be saying, "Come closer." Tommy took a step toward the sound, his heart racing. The whisper faded, leaving Tommy with more questions than answers. But before he could leave, he spotted a rusty old compass lying near the flag. He picked it up, brushing off the sand. The needle wobbled wildly, pointing toward the rocky cliffs at the edge of the beach. Is this trying to lead me somewhere? Tommy wondered. He clutched the compass, feeling braver than ever. Following the compass, Tommy made his way to the cliffs. To his surprise, he found a narrow path leading down to a hidden cove he'd never seen before. The cove was shadowy and silent, with strange shapes and rocks that looked like faces. Faded flags from old ships were tucked into crevices along the rocks, their colors barely visible. As Tommy ventured deeper, the shadows seemed to move, and faint whispers echoed through the air. "I hope I'm not disturbing any ghosts," he muttered, swallowing hard. Near the water's edge, Tommy spotted an old glass bottle wedged in the sand. Inside was a rolled-up note, sealed with a faded wax stamp. His hands shook as he carefully pulled the note out and unrolled it. In spidery handwriting, it read, "To find the Starling's treasure, patience is key. Solve each clue carefully, and you may set us free." Tommy's eyes widened. Was he about to find the ship's lost treasure? What would the next clue reveal? The note had a rhyme at the bottom. Where the sun meets the sea, a mark will appear. Follow the shadow, and the path will be clear. Tommy read it over and over, scratching his head. Follow the shadow? What could that mean? As the sun began to set, he noticed a shadow stretching across the sand, pointing toward a cave at the far end of the cove. Could this be the way? Tommy took a deep breath and entered the cave. It was cool and damp with the smell of salty air and moss. The cave walls were etched with symbols, birds, waves, and stars, just like the flag he'd found. He took a step forward and his foot nudged something metal. Bending down, he found a small chest half buried in the sand. Could it be? Was this the treasure of the starling? Heart pounding, Tommy opened the chest. But inside, he didn't find gold or jewels. Instead, there was a map, another note, and a strange, smooth stone. The note read, "Our treasure is wisdom, and patience is our key. Follow the map to learn what's meant to be." Tommy's excitement mixed with confusion. Treasure isn't just about gold? With a puzzled smile, he held onto the map. That night, Tommy studied the map, tracing its lines under the starlit sky. The map seemed to show the beach, cove, and even constellations above. The stone glowed softly under the stars, matching one of the constellations. "This must be part of the treasure," Tommy whispered, feeling a sense of wonder. As he looked up, he realized that treasure wasn't just about what he held. It was about what he'd learned, and he had one more journey to make. The next morning, Tommy returned to the beach with the map and stone in hand. The map led him to a spot where a small rock with an X sat in the sand. Digging down, he uncovered a simple brass key attached to another note. The note read, "The greatest treasures are the ones that guide us, those that teach and those that inspire." Tommy held the key and felt a wave of understanding. Was this the final message from the Starling's crew? As the tide rolled out, Tommy returned to Lost Cove with the key, feeling a deep connection to the beach and its mysteries. When he arrived, he noticed something strange. The cave walls seemed to glow, revealing a hidden carving of the starling, surrounded by stars. Using the key, he unlocked a tiny door carved into the rock. Inside, he found letters and stories, messages from the ship's crew, each one sharing wisdom and lessons learned. This was the true treasure, stories and knowledge that had been hidden for centuries. Tommy read each letter, feeling closer to the ship's crew. They wrote of courage, patience, and the beauty of exploring the world. He realized the crew of the Starling hadn't left treasure to make people rich. They wanted to share the wisdom they'd gathered, hoping others would learn and grow. Tommy felt a warmth in his heart. This was more precious than gold. Tommy tucked the letters back into their hiding place, sealing up the knowledge he'd found. But he took one message with him, a reminder to always stay curious. As he left the cove, he noticed the shadows felt friendlier, the air lighter, as if the beach itself was grateful for his visit. From that day forward, Tommy knew he had a new treasure, not one he could hold, but one he could always remember, and he'd carry it with him forever. That evening, Tommy gathered his family by the fire and told them the story of the starling, the ghostly cove, and the hidden treasure. They listened wide-eyed, hanging on every word, and when he finished, They looked at him with wonder. "You discovered something amazing," his dad said, hugging him tight. Tommy smiled, knowing that sometimes treasure isn't what you expect. It's the adventure and lessons along the way. As Tommy lay in bed that night, he thought about the whispers and shadows on the beach, wondering what other secrets the world might hold. He knew he'd be back at the beach in the morning, looking for more echoes in the sand. Wow, what a wonderful story! Did you enjoy it as well? Did you have a chance to think about the question we asked at the beginning of the story? No worries if you didn't. What do you think the boy in the story learned from his treasure hunt? Why do you think the letters and stories he found were important, even though they weren't gold or jewels? How did he feel at the end? And would you feel the same way after a journey like his? That takes us to the end of our story. We sincerely hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.